Today, I want to discuss using AI credits wisely. If you're using AI tools at work, you're probably burning through credits, also referred to as tokens, faster than you need to. Today, I'm going to walk you through a practical guide that'll help you get more done while using fewer tokens. My name is Adam Barney. I'm the president of Framework IT. The guide that I have on screen covers how credits work, picking the right model, writing better prompts, and managing conversations. By the end of this video, you'll have some concrete habits that stretch your AI budget further. So let's start with how credits work. Credits, again, are commonly also referred to as tokens. They really are representations of the cost of providing a large language model, largely driven by compute, infrastructure, and energy cost. Tokens are really the base unit. A token typically roughly equates to 3/4 of a word, or 4 characters. When you are using large language models, you're essentially paying for both input, which is what you send or say to the large language model, and output, what the AI generates. On the Managed Framework AI platform, credits are your company's shared monthly pool, which resets on the first of the month without rollover. What drives consumption? Model choice. Which large language model you use can have a large impact on credits or tokens. More powerful models, or what are commonly referred to as frontier models, simply take more tokens to process each turn in the conversation, each input and each output. Actions and tools, things like file uploads, web searches, API calls, integrations to third-party software will also add to how many tokens that you use. For a quick sense of scale, a single-page document summary might only take about 1 to 12 credits, depending on which model you choose. An average chat conversation could be about 1 to 30 credits, but it can be much higher, right? It depends how much information you input, how much you output, how many times the conversation turned. You can think of credits like a monthly cell phone data plan. You want to use enough to get value, but not waste it on things you don't need to. Now, I want to talk about picking the right model. And this is always a bit in shift, right? Because new models come out, models that are currently the most advanced frontier models, won't be in the future. So bear in mind that this information is just, based on at this point in time. The key kind of point here is this is the single highest impact habit that you can build. So on our platform, there are kind of lowest cost models that are great for quick Q&A, simple summaries, and drafting short content. There are low cost models that are good for everyday chat, document summaries, and light analysis. Kind of medium cost models that are good for general purpose work, moderate analysis, and coding help. And then there's kind of medium to high cost models that are great for complex reasoning, deep analysis, and advanced coding, as well as premium or frontier models are great for the hardest problems and mission critical accuracy. So here we just want to call out some of the high performance, low credit models. There's a number of models available on the platform that are, again, are really good for like these everyday tasks. Kind of can punch above their weight despite being low cost. A great example of this is GPT 5.4 Mini, also GPT 5.4 Nano, which is good for rapid fire responses, and it's surprisingly strong for a lower cost model. DeepSeek version 3.2 has sharp reasoning and fast answers. And Qwen 3 Coder Next is purpose-built for coding. Before you reach for a premium model, it's always good to ask yourself, can one of these efficient models handle this just as well? And some good rules of thumb are for simple tasks, go with the lowest or low-cost models. For coding tasks, Qwen 3 Coder Next is a good first choice. For complex or high stakes, step up to the medium or high performance models. And when you really need kind of the most premium results, Um, you can go to those, but I wouldn't default to those. Sometimes it's good to start with lower cost model. If it falls short of your quality expectations, etc., then going to a higher model can be a good approach. Quick note on reasoning models. Models like O3, DeepSeek R1, Kimi K2, use thinking tokens internally. Powerful for complex task, but you're paying for those extra tokens. So if you don't need step-by-step reasoning, use a non-reasoning version. Another thing I want to discuss is writing smarter prompts. So a couple practical tips there. This is again one of this next best levers that you can control is how you write prompts. So I want to give you some practical tips. Number one, be specific and direct. A good prompt might be summarize this paragraph in 3 bullet points. A bad prompt would be, hey, can you maybe take a look at this? Dot, dot, dot. And vague prompts lead to more input tokens and longer wandering output. Vague prompts also make it more likely you're going to have to rework it. You're going to have to give it feedback or revise a better prompt, which is also going to consume more tokens. It is also good to specify output format and length. Tell the AI exactly what you want. I want a 2-sentence summary. I want the top 5 risks as bullet points. I want a 150-word description. When you give it no constraints, you may get a full detailed response, which is taking more output tokens when you really didn't need any of that. Also, provide only relevant context. This one can make a huge difference. If you need information from pages 5 to 7 of a document, paste in pages 5 to 7. Don't attach the whole 30 or 50-page document, because when you do that, you're basically forcing the large language model to review and take all of that information, which is driving up those input tokens. So every token of context costs credits. So bear that in mind. Context is kind of like the short-term memory of all the information AI isn't taking at once. It includes your prompt, files you attached. If you gave it hyperlinks to things to review on the web, that information it scrapes is brought into its context, as well as any personal preferences or instructions that you might have. That all already uses some context. So when you're giving AI models a lot of extra context they don't need to complete your task, you are making that task more expensive than it needed to be. It's also good to front load your instructions. Put your key instructions first, then supporting context. It helps the model focus and often produces tighter output in the first try. Now I want to talk about managing conversations and tools, because this can have a lot of hidden costs, especially in longer conversations. So here's something most people don't realize. Every time you send a new message in an ongoing chat session, the AI rereads the conversation history. I will say that again because that's really important. Every time you go back and forth in a conversation in a session with AI, it's rereading the conversation history. Now, if you think about that, what that means is the amount of context information it's pulling in and processing as input tokens every time you go back and forth in conversation is increasing drastically. So message 1 has just your prompt. Message 10 has your prompt and all 9 previous exchanges. Message 20, is taking a large volume of tokens processed at every turn in the conversation. And here's the deal. This may be totally unnecessary once you understand this and you know some tips to manage it. So here's some practical strategies. 1, start a new chat when switching topics. Don't carry that unrelated context of that session of discussion of prior topics, maybe prior tasks. Don't carry that forward and have it reprocess all of it when it doesn't need it for the new topic or task. Just open up a new chat window, start a new session. Also, give the AI everything up front. 1 well-structured prompt beats 5 back and forth exchanges because, again, of how it's processing that chat session history, as we just covered. Also, and I love this one because it's really effective, is you can summarize and restart in new chats a conversation. So even if the chat is on the same topic or task, but you realize you're taking many turns in conversation. What probably has now happened is a lot of information that's not necessarily needed is built up and is being processed again every time in conversation. So you can always tell the chat, hey, summarize all of the key points from this session, all the key, then take those key outputs, start a new fresh chat, paste that summary in as starting context for that chat, and then proceed with your next request or your next prompt. That is drastically shrinking, basically, the use of input tokens and the amount of context window you're taking up. So it's more economic, but because it's captured the key points of the prior conversation, you still feel that continuity and can still get a great result. Also, avoid filler responses. I know we're trained to say thank you. That's great. Perfect. Now it really, AI doesn't need those extra words. It doesn't need it at all, and you're using more tokens, etc. Another strategy you could use to manage tokens is, if you have like say Copilot included in your Microsoft 365 licensing for your organization, and you just need to write some quick emails, get a couple quick meeting recaps, simple summaries, nothing wrong with using Copilot as well. And then you can maybe use the Framework AI solution for access to all more models, complex analysis, very secured environment, specialized workflows and agents, etc. So that's something else to bear in mind. And then be intentional with actions. Web search, for example, only enable when you need live web data. You don't want to call on tools with AI that you don't really need for that request or that task, because again, that's using extra tokens. Also, again, file uploads, unless you need to process the whole document, just paste the relevant information. That's cheaper than uploading the entirety of it. And for image generation, one thing to bear in mind is use the premium tier image generation tools when you really truly need a premium image. If you want imagery for a marketing and sales asset that you're going to use all the time, it's very important to your brand, go ahead and use a premium tier. But if you're just looking for a quick picture to go along with like a low value, say LinkedIn post, you don't need to use the premium tier. Those lower cost tiers can often produce still a great result. So quick references. I'm just going to walk through a few rows from this table. There's a lot here, and you do have access to this guide as well. So a couple things I'll highlight. You can try GPT 5.4 Mini or DeepSeek V 3.2 for everyday work. I wouldn't default to the most powerful models for everyday work. I'm a big fan of, for example, the latest, Claude Opus 4.6 Frontier models. Think the output quality is amazing, but it is complete overkill and excess expense for a lot of that very everyday minor criticality type work. So, those models I just highlighted are efficient models, and they can handle most common everyday tasks at a fraction of the cost. You can use Qwen 3 Coder next for coding. I would not use a flagship general purpose model for that. This is purpose built for that type of task, and it costs less. Again, start a new chat when changing topics. This one's huge. Do not keep one endless conversation. That is a real token killer. It also fills up context windows, which can increase the chances of getting low quality outputs, which we talk about in a separate video. Fresh chats can help reset and manage cost effectively. Again, paste only relevant information. Don't upload the full 30-page PDF unless the AI needs the full 30-page PDF. Every token costs credits. Be specific, again, with prompts. Ask for 3 bullet points, for example. Do not leave the output you're expecting open-ended with a prompt, because AI might spit out 10 times more than you were expecting. You may end up having to have it summarized or distill it down further anyway, and in the process, you just wasted a heck of a lot more tokens unnecessarily. So this section of the credit usage guide cheat sheet might be a good thing to print out or save and just kind of have as a quick reference guide as well. One of the things that we have not added quite yet to the guide, but will in the next version, is that HATS AI just released a very nice tool on the platform, which is auto model selector. And what that does is it looks at your prompt and it will actually assess on two fronts. It's going to look at the nature of the task itself and which models perform that task well. And then it's going to weight, prioritizing using a lower cost model if it believes that the lower cost model can adequately process that task to the expectations you specified. So it's not perfect, like with anything with AI, but using auto model selector is a helpful feature that can also help manage credit usage so that you don't have to memorize a table like I have on screen and constantly stay up to date about which models are best at which. Auto model selector was, done to simplify that exercise to help people match the right model to the right task, but also with a mindfulness towards being economic about it. So, a couple kind of closing points. Monitor usage. Your company shares a monthly credit pool. It resets on the first. There's no rollover. It's nice to kind of check your usage periodically, especially near month end. If you're hitting limits, at the company level, talk to Framework IT about right sizing your plan. When you reach the credit limits included in your plan, you still have access to the platform. Doesn't shut down and entirely stop working on you. But what does stop is that you get rate limited from using the most advanced frontier models. So again, if you kind of think about some of the things we've covered in this video, you don't want to be hammering those highest cost, frontier, most advanced models for a bunch of low value tasks, chewing up your credit usage inefficiently. And then, maybe the last week of the month, you can no longer use those advanced models. And maybe you have a high value, very critical task. And that really was the ideal model to use, but now you're rate limited. So this is why this topic's so important, and we want to put out more educational content around this. Like anything in business, we want to maximize our productivity. We want to work efficiently. AI is terrific for that. But again, like anything in business, we also have to be mindful of our spending, mindful of budgets, etc. So we're not trying to deter people from using AI and getting the value it created. We're trying to encourage them to use it in the most economic fashion possible while still creating great outcomes, great outputs, etc. So, um, like I said, credit management isn't about using AI less, it's about using it smarter. Pick the right model, right type prompts, manage your conversations, use the right tool for the job, do that consistently, get in the habit of it. It gets much easier too as you build habits around it and you get more value from every credit in the company's investment. Thank you. Have a wonderful day.